Hi guys, welcome back to Nyx Reads. Thank you so much for watching. Please feel free to subscribe if you love watching bookish content, and give this video a thumbs up if you like watching TBR videos because I enjoy them very much. I'm bringing back my seasonal TBR list. I didn't do it for the first half of the year because I figured I'm gonna be okay just mood reading, and don't get me wrong, I found so many 4- and 5-star books already this year, but I do feel like I'm missing a little bit of direction. So I made another list this time for June to September, and I'm genuinely really excited about these books. I'm actually gonna mix it up and start with my 2 nonfiction picks for this list. The first one is Cooked: A Natural History of Transformation by Michael Pollan. I found this title through Audrey Approved. She has also a great YouTube channel, which I'm gonna link down below, but also on Instagram where she posts book reviews, and this is where I actually found it. Great variety on nonfiction, so check her out. And what I really liked about this book is that it reminded me of Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat. I don't know if you've seen that Netflix show before. It's only 4 episodes, but it is absolutely amazing. That one is based on Samin Nosrat's book, Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat. The author is focusing on the 4 elements in this book and what they do to food. So we have water, air, fire, and earth. It says in the summary that each section of Cooked tracks Pollan's effort to master a single classic recipe using one of the 4 elements. So it's really a deep dive, so like the show that I watched. And I just realized that one of the cooks that he's working with in this book is from Chez Panisse, and that is actually the restaurant where also Samin Nosrat worked at. The other nonfiction I randomly found on Libby. It's Modern Romance by Aziz Ansari. I know this actor / comedian from Parks and Rec. I really enjoyed his character on there. I was curious because I also loved his show Modern Love, is that what it's called? I thought the writing was really funny. I honestly don't know too much about this book. I'm guessing that we're going to be looking at different forms of modern relationships. I'm obviously expecting a humorous tone to all of this because he's a comedian, but I also saw in the reviews that he bases his essays on actual psych studies that have been done. There's always something intriguing about reading something on human behavior because people are weird. Moving on to my litfic picks. The first one is Vom Ende der Einsamkeit, which translates to The End of Loneliness, by Benedict. He is a German author, but this book and his other works have been translated to English and other languages, so you can read this as well. This book is about 3 siblings who lose their parents in a tragic accident when they were younger, and as they grow up, trauma from the past is starting to come back to them, and they're dealing with, I guess, each other and also what happened. This book deals a lot with the topic of loss, getting over trauma, but also there's a big love story in here supposedly, and I've heard very good things about this. This is supposed to be extremely moving, which I believe. I'm sure I'm gonna shed a tear here. And I'm also expecting excellent prose. Next, I have a book that I got from the big library sale I went to ages ago, so it was time to put this on my TBR. It's 15 Dogs by Alexis. This author was born in Trinidad and grew up in Canada, and this book in fact won a bunch of Canadian literature prizes. The premise of this sounds so interesting. I've never heard of this book or this author before, but I read the back of the book when I was browsing through all of the cartons of books that were there, and it just sounded so interesting. So this is about a wager between the gods Apollo and Hermes. And one of them is saying that if dogs had the cognitive abilities like humans and have speech, that they would end up being even more unhappy than humans are. So one day they transform dogs that are in a Toronto vet clinic, and these dogs suddenly can think and speak like humans. That just sounds very unique. I don't think I've heard about anything like that. I'm just really curious to see what these dogs think about humans and what they're gonna do with their newfound abilities. I don't have a dog, but I'm sure this kind of book would be very interesting for anybody who's a dog lover. Then I have 5 Little Indians by Michelle Good. This author is of First Nation ancestry, and she's a member of the Red Pheasant Cree Nation in Saskatchewan. And this book won the HarperCollins UBC Prize for Best Fiction back in 2018. Why must they put these stickers on there? It's so ugly. And I just now see, so this one has the sticker for the Scotiabank Giller Prize, just like this book. Judging by the summary, this is not going to be an easy read, but it is an important one. So we have 5 kids. Their names are Kenny, Lucy, Clara, Howie, and Macy, and they're being put in a church-run residential school. If you're like me and you did not grow up in Canada or the US, I honestly didn't really know anything about residential schools at first. So what they are is they basically stole kids from Native American or First Nation families, as you say here in Canada, and put them in these horrible institution for them to, assimilate into Western civilization, which basically means that they forced these poor kids to forget their culture, their language. The reports of abuse and even murders that happen from these schools are absolutely horrifying, and there's still graves that are being discovered now, years and years later. So what happens in this book is that years and years after, they're finally being released from this detention, but then they're being sent out into the world with no money, no skills, and just what hope for future. And the stories about these kids crossing paths years and years later, them trying to overcome the trauma that they had experienced in this residential school. So this is a story of survivors, but also a story about friendship. And I just really do hope that we get out of this book with a bit of hope for these characters. Going from litfic now to thriller and mystery. So the first one, and I'm so excited about this one, is Magpie Murders by Anthony Horowitz. Because when I showed this in my haul, which you should watch that because there's a bunch of interesting books and authors on there, the response that I got in the comment section was overly positive. So please do not spoil me, because I've heard such amazing things about the twists and turns that you don't see coming in this book, and I think there's a book in a book element in here as well, which I like. I think this is part of a series because on Goodreads it's marked also as Susan Ryland #1. So Susan Ryland is a character in this book. She's the book editor. Sounds a bit meta, right? She's the editor of Alan Conway, who's a best-selling crime writer. His books are described as being classic British crime with elements from Agatha Christie, which obviously I love, and Dorothy Sayers, which I haven't heard of that author before, so I think maybe I need to check those books out as well. This author is incredibly successful, but his behavior is a bit troublesome, but in order to keep her job, she must put up with it. So with the new manuscript that Susan has to edit, it features the signature detective. His name is Atticus Punt. And there's a dead body in Pye Hall, an English manor house. I mean, first of all, the editor-writer setting sounds intriguing, but then the book in the book setting also sounds absolutely amazing. So I think this book is going places. So she's editing this new book, but as she goes through the manuscript, she realizes that there's something hidden, something very mysterious hidden in this manuscript. Once I finish my current read, I think this is going to be the next book that I'll be picking up. Next up is a thriller with a big erotica element to it. It's The Book of the Most Precious Substance by Sara Gran. So this book is about Lily Albrecht. She has resigned herself to a dull, sexless life as a rare book dealer until she gets a lead on a book that just might turn anything around, and that book is called The Book of the Most Precious Substance. It's a 17th century manual on sex magic, rumored to be the most powerful occult book ever written. I'm reading this because I don't think there's a better way for me to describe what this book is about. And there's a bunch of extremely wealthy people who are willing to pay a ridiculous sum for this book if Lily finds it. I'm guessing she's gonna find it and is gonna use it for herself. This sounds unlike any thriller or horror that I've ever read before. I don't really read erotica, but this sounds like it is so occult and dark and twisty that the cringe factor on the explicit scenes is gonna be relatively low. That's what I'm hoping. Because I do get secondhand embarrassment, but I just couldn't pass this book up. It sounds so fun. Let me know if anybody of you read this, because it's been making the rounds on the booktubers who like horror usually. Lastly, I have 2 YA books. Are you surprised? Bear with me, you'll see why. It's the first one is Chloe and the Kaishao Boys by Coyiuto. I just recently talked about this cover actually in my last video because I find it really cute, but this was also part of my Filipino book haul from my last summer haul. I bought this specifically because I was on the lookout for Filipino writers that live in the Philippines. In this case, this is a Chinese Filipino writer, and the main character Chloe is Chinese Filipino as well. So she is a teenager who is about to make an important decision because she's been accepted to university in the US, and now she doesn't know if she should stay in Manila, the capital of the Philippines, or if she should move out to the US and pursue her life and dreams there. So her family is kind of divided. Parts of her family want her to stay, parts of her family want her to go, and her aunt is insisting on throwing her a huge debut party, which is a huge elaborate party that Filipino girls, well, some get for their 18th birthday. It's kind of comparable to a Mexican quinceañera. The tagline says, choose a guy or choose herself. This book was written recently, so I really hope she chooses herself. And lastly, I have a YA fantasy, which I'm picking up because I have such high hopes for it. It's Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. I haven't heard anything bad about this book yet. People seem to love it. Even booktubers who usually don't really read YA or fantasy give this book such a high rating. So honestly, I think this is gonna be a winner. I really hope so. So this is about 16-year-old Bree Matthews. She loses her mom in an accident when she was young, and she now goes to UNC Chapel Hill. She witnesses something very odd, I think during her first week on campus, where she sees a magical creature suck out the life force from, I guess, a human. And from there on, she discovers that there's this secret club called Legendborn, which has something to do with Merlin and Arthur's Order. So I've honestly never read a modern fantasy story with Merlin in it. So this is something completely new. And she also discovers that there's a bit more to her mother's death than what is in the police report, that maybe there was some magic involved in her death. I think this is going to be a great one, and let me know if you love this as well. That was all the books, and I really hope that I could convey to you how excited I am about this list, and I'm happy that I decided to put one together after all, because I think this is really going to elevate my reading for the next 2-3 months. Please let me know if you read any of the books that I just showed, and I really hope that you're gonna tell me that you like them. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel if you love bookish content, and give this video a thumbs up if you liked this list. And I will see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.